Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today's video is going to be about multi-time frame analysis. So proper multi-time frame analysis, even from way up in the monthly charts down to the daily. So how we use the higher time frame to get a good bias from what we call a draw on liquidity, a draw on price. So I'm going to touch on a few topics, right? Obvious ones are going to be premium and discount of a price range. The draw on price, as I mentioned, from liquidity to liquidity or imbalance to liquidity and so on, right? Back and forth between those, and how price is fractal. So even going from the monthlies to the weeklies to the dailies down into lower time frames and execution time frames, the same patterns are present on all of those. So the analysis applies to all of those time frames, and that's how we use it to get our bias. But with the main topic being about bias, it's how the higher time frame drives our lower time frame expectations, right? So we can have our bias going forward for the next few days or weeks, depending on which parent time frame, right? Which time frame higher than the one we're using is driving the price. So I'm going to start us off here on the quarterly chart, right? 3-month chart on EU. So I'm going to use the recent price action, right? Just to make it clear. You can see we've got this bearish leg, right? January 21st, 2021 down to here for July 2022. So we can see that clear bearish range creating lower lows, breaking below these lows here. That was a good bearish expansion, right? You can see if we take a look at this here, this is our range, right? From this high to this low. Above this 0.5 point here, this equilibrium is premium, and this is discount. So what does price do? Price has obviously expanded, taken out sell side liquidity, right? Created that leg. Then we create a swing low. That swing low was confirmed obviously by this 3 candle pattern. We've got a higher low here, lower low, higher low there, right? So our range is from this swing high here, where we've got this high with 2 lower high candles next to it, to this low. So what has price done after taking liquidity? Price has pulled back, right? Healthy price would pull back to a premium, right? Which is what price has done. Price has pulled back to this premium point here, which is a fair value gap, right? Shallow into the premium, but you can see it was in a strong bearish trend at that time. Pulled back, met this PDA, POI, whatever you want to call them, right? So we've got a point of interest here, which is a fair value gap. I'll zoom in some more. And if we look to the left, right, we also have, I suppose, breaker blocks, and this is also an order block, right? So if we just draw this out so that it's very obvious, this is the order block low around this point here. So that's great. We've got a stack of confluences here on the quarterly, right? So we're looking back to the left. Price was held in this area, an accumulation, a range here, right? Eventually we swept some internal buy side liquidity in this quarter here, and the next quarter we had a bearish engulfing, right? So we'd see shifts in structure on the lower time frames, which would be like the monthly and weekly, right? So this POI here is held, and price is now broken out from the premium, okay? And how price moves is price will now seek out towards that external sell side liquidity, right? Bearish trend, pull back to this bearish POI here, order block, imbalance, okay? Sweat some internal liquidity right before making that move, that manipulation there, and then we've broken down. So on the quarterly chart now already, we can see we're in it's bearish, right? So we can expect obviously price on the lower time frames that it's going to be heading for this area here ultimately, okay? How long it takes there, we don't know. That was going to happen over a matter of, I don't know, it could be 2 quarters, 3 quarters, we don't know that, right? So now we've got this bearish bias from the 3 monthly chart, with its target being this external sell side liquidity low. As it's done previously, you can see, I believe we would have pulled back up to premium here as well. Okay, spiked into premium, another imbalance, respected it, and eventually broke down again after some consolidation. So I hope that's now clear for you. Let's go down to the monthly and build upon our multi-time frame analysis. Now, as I mentioned before, price is fractal, okay? So we're going to have many more of the same patterns as we go down into the lower time frames. All right, so this is that quarterly imbalance here that we rejected. Now we're on to the monthly. Monthly, you can see that range a lot more clearly. We went, swept buy side liquidity, broke down, nice clear bearish monthly leg now, right? And then what did price react to? Right, price has gone from liquidity, taken out liquidity, to an imbalance, right? This CE mark here just means 50% of this imbalance. Look what happened, right? If we start to read the candles, we had bearish momentum, spiked into this 50% mark here, and lost all of that momentum, so price looks exhausted, right? So now what do we have this month? We have a possible swing low forming here, right? So this will be a low, and then this will be our range from this high to this low here. So as you can see here, we've got this range from up here to this low here. So, right, we've rejected those quarterly imbalances and order blocks there, swept that internal monthly. So just to clear up internal and external, every leg's internal and external, it doesn't matter what time frame you're on. This is now, even though this is internal to a 3 monthly leg, this would be external and external liquidity here on a monthly leg. So just to clear that up so that's clear. So we've broken down, we've got bearish leg on the monthly chart now, right? So we expect still the quarterly drive, right, to ultimately be this sell side liquidity here, but now we've got POIs here on the monthly, which are going to cause reactions, okay? So what will it cause? Possibly a pullback reaction, especially once this month closes here. We've got 5 days left, right, the last week of February to close this out, and that will kind of confirm a swing low and swing high, right? We can see this as support at this 50% mark of this imbalance. So if the monthly is going to be in pullback mode, right, which is a bullish pullback, even though we are in what would ultimately be a bearish EU, the monthly is going to drive the weekly and the daily, right? So the daily, especially a monthly pullback, is going to be a whole daily trend. This could be 3 candles up to here, but the daily trend is going to be a whole lot more price action. Okay, so that's the fractal side of it. So now we have a draw on price above, right, in terms of the monthly, and having this bearish leg here, price has met a POI, right? We've gone from liquidity to imbalance, and now we may seek from imbalance to imbalance again. So I'm going to zoom in some more here. Right, we've got this bearish leg, imbalance left behind above, right, swing low forming. We're in discount, the imbalance just crosses over into a premium. We have again an order block here, so I'll just move this order block from the 3 monthly. We have our order block around this point here now. You can see that clearly. This would also count as a breaker block, right, because this is the last candle before price. This is the down candle before price was bullish and took buy side liquidity and broke down. So we have breaker blocks overlapping with order blocks, also with an imbalance. So that's a draw on price, right? And then of course we have that overall trend of bearish. Once we are back up into this area here, if we go there, that's when we now are in sync on the monthly and the 3 monthly calendar to look for those with trend shorts. But I'm going to concentrate on current draws on price. We're forming a swing low here, so I expect our draw on price now to be up towards this area here. Therefore we might have a bullish daily and weekly sentiment for this bullish monthly pullback. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. Right, we've got this range, swing low, swing high. We're in a discount, we'll pull back. Right, once we're around this area and this 0.5 area here, stop looking for longs maybe, let price play out. It might do this again, as it has done every time it's reached this 0.5 part. We might start to range, especially during the summer. So I hope that's not too much information. I hope you understand what I mean by draw on liquidity. We're going from imbalance back to imbalance, and obviously liquidity above these highs internally anyway. So I hope I'm explaining that well and this is clear for you. Any questions, let me know in the comments. So this is how I would approach my multi-time frame analysis. You're not always going to get these clear draws on price, right? If price is chopping up on the day, on the monthly, so you may just, if there's nothing clear on the monthly, 3 monthly, or even weekly, then you just start from the daily, right? And just use that in the exact same way. Okay, but preferably if we get a weekly draw on price, that'd be great. So this monthly draw to its imbalance around this area here will be a weekly draw also. So let's go down to the weekly and see what that looks like. Now we're down on the weekly. Just a reminder, each time frame that I go down from is the parent time frame to this current time frame, right? So the monthly will be a parent to the weekly and will drive its price. So when we get down to the weekly here, we see this price action, we get a bit more detail. We've got that same bearish leg here, right? You can see we had another internal sweep. So on the monthly, this was the sweep here, but you can see we also again had this internal weekly buy side liquidity sweep up there, and then price broke down. Price then took sell side liquidity above this little internal swing low here, right? And into that imbalance, and it also has its own imbalance. Then what started happening on the weekly, right? We have the draws above this breaker block, we have our premium, we have our order block as well. Okay, so let's refine it some more onto the weekly, right, to have a look at this possible bullish bias now that we have, right? We have another order block here, even on the weekly, right? This is us just refining this zone here. So we have weekly order block, weekly imbalance here. Within that monthly breaker block, we'll have a weekly breaker block, I guess, here as well, right? Down candles before we went up, took buy side liquidity. So it all still applies. We build upon the area again, all right? The only difference is you may start to look at different areas on a weekly, such as a swing high here to this low as a different range within. But I'm going to use this same range overall because I think it looks pretty clear as well. Okay, so you can see where we broke below all these lows, all of this sell side liquidity, met a POI again, sell side liquidity, and now we're yet to confirm, I would say, a shift in price on the weekly for that pullback. We've formed a low, created this high here, and created this high low. First signals, right? The lower time frames are obviously going to move before their parent to give you an obvious indication of a change in structure and that pullback forming, or when that trend starts to continue. So at the moment it is kind of ranging here. I would say we've taken sell side liquidity, made a high low, and at the moment we've got a lower high as well. But in terms of my bias, right, why I've been having that bullish bias recently is because I expect us to take these highs, but we'll see that a bit more clearly on the daily time frame. So what might be trapping price here? Well, if we look to the left, we do have an order block here, right, on the weekly. So price is currently respecting this weekly order block here, right? Hasn't found its way through just yet. We've obviously gone from sell side liquidity back up to another POI, this order block, right, from this imbalance. But I believe there's a strong draw on price above in this premium here. Okay, so that's why I have that bullish bias. We're beginning to see the start of a possible bullish pullback, right, on the higher time frames. And we're going to have our liquidity targets from all these swing highs being formed as we were moving down. So the weekly at the moment, like I said not long ago, isn't the clearest in terms of current, say, POIs here, but we have the same draws on price above, which is built upon confluences to possibly draw us towards this area here, which means I now have the bias that I expect our weeks to close bullish, right, until we meet this area. Will it do that every week? No, because we're going to have POIs on the way that will cause reactions, but ultimately the parent timeframes will prevail and pull us along to this area here. So that's how I read the price. So let's get down to the daily now, and let's see what we can look at in terms of the daily biases coming from the monthlies and weekly timeframes. So here is the daily. If you've been watching my recent analyses, you'll see that I've had that bullish bias, right? So why did I start to form that bullish bias and believe we're starting to have that pullback? Is just because the lower time frames will move in their trend first, because it's fractal. The daily is going to have a trend before the weekly shows a trend and before the monthly looks convincing like it's going to pull back. What did we have here on the daily? We had bearish price action, lower high, lower low, but we wicked with this sell side liquidity sweep like candle, right? These candles are often indicators at points. Took plenty of sell side liquidity, and we went on to break a market structure. So this previous swing high and even this swing high as well. Again, we hit some traffic, order block here, pull back down to a discount, healthy price action, premium to discount. And what do we have down there? We have a discount BPR, right, which is a POI, and then price became bullish again. right? Moved back up towards a premium, moved back up towards the buy side liquidity. So if we create a leg, a bullish leg, pull back to discount, and we are to continue with a bullish bias, this external buy side liquidity becomes the target, like I mentioned on the 3 monthly candle, where we expect to go for these external lows eventually, right? So bullish leg, external buy side liquidity, pulled back internally to mitigate a POI to now continue, because remember this is a pullback on the higher time frame, so price action might be a bit more messy and less expansions like we did have on the way down. So we've got our bullish price action here. I don't want to get too much into analysis, but it's important parts to pick up on is that we leave POIs along the way to come down, mitigate them. Order block here, we've mitigated this order block around the equilibrium point, right? After making a bullish leg, we have mitigated this, had another bullish day, left behind another inverted fair value gap just here. The close wasn't the best, right? But like I said, we've got a draw on price above. I think it will be more confirmed once the daily breaks this buy side liquidity high here. If it does, that pullback is well and truly in motion, because this is just the first market shift. We haven't had a second one to confirm any new trend yet. So we are still without that confirmation on the trend, but those signs are there, okay? So that's why I've gone in with an early bullish sentiment, and that is my bias. So this goes all the way down to the lower time frames where we're going to see these patterns repeat, right? Sweep of liquidity, right? Then price seeks out buy side liquidity, okay, and imbalances. Then we go from liquidity back down to a discount to an imbalance, then back up seeking internal liquidities and external liquidities again. So I hope I've been clear on that, right? So we went all the way from the quarterly down to the daily, and we established on the monthly that we're starting to create a swing low, right, which has given us a dealing range. And we have in the premium above, looking to the left, confluences, imbalances, fair value gaps, order blocks, and liquidity that could draw in price on that monthly time frame. Then we've gone to the weekly and we've refined it, and the weekly also has the same confluences within that same area, right? And the weekly has started to bottom out possibly, and then the daily indicated that by breaking market structure as well. Yeah, and it looks like we are to continue that, but we'll confirm that once we break above this high. And the daily is also doing the same thing. We're taking buy side liquidity, coming back to discount POIs, imbalances, then repeating the same pattern again. Okay, and remember, we're in a pullback phase on a high time frame, right? And we're running into traffic, of course, like I said, with order blocks, right? We're going to have our bias bullish, which means we're going to look for buy days, right, constantly until we meet our target up here. However, price isn't always going to close with a bullish day, and the only indication we can ever get of that is when we have bearish POIs and we've met those bearish POIs and they may cause a reaction, right? So that's the only time we can preempt those bearish days. But usually if we are going to get our buys, we're going to be patient for those, and the lower time frame will signal that with its structure as well, because price is fractal first. If price doesn't make those formations, right, to go with our long bias, you probably won't get in a trade. So there's no reason for you to lose a trade, okay? Even though you will on those days where maybe the price just closes out bearish, maybe due to news or something you didn't notice, right? So that's how I do my multi-time frame analysis, right? This for the higher time frame in order to gain a bias, and then on the lower time frame we look for more of these same switches, breaking market structure. This is exactly how the hourly could look as well. We look for hourly fair value gaps and order blocks, right? Wait for price to react off those, and then the M15 to break structure, right? The same way that this could be an M15 sweep of Asia lows, breaking market structure, pull back to a POI, right? And then you go long. So I hope that was clear. I hope you gained value from that. Any questions, just let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.